going to be here and listening, but I got to eat at the same time. So I might just like remove my head for a second, you know, if we're going to be live. Just letting you know.
Okay.
But I'll be here listening. I'm just going to shift my chair to eat.
All right. So you're live, Deb.
Thanks.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. Glad to see everybody's smiling face again. We're still operating the way we have been for a while. Sorry, I'm just trying to get everything up on my screen here. Welcome, everyone. Oh, I know what I'm missing. There we go. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting. I look forward to us talking about the FADS information today. It looks like there's been some work done on that. Can I have someone, just a second, I'm going to try and split my screen here. There we go. Please. Oh, it's not going to let me split my screen. Okay. Could I have somebody make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Councillor Broderick and Krista?
Thank you.
Any discussion about that? Tammy, do we still need to move this information around, or are we good? Oh.
I muted myself because my chair can be loud, but no, with Scott here at the beginning, we don't need to move anything around. Thank you, Chair. Okay, good. Okay, disclosure of pecuniary interests or and the nature thereof. Anyone? No. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Can I have an approval of motion to approve the minutes from the meeting October 13? Krista? And a seconder? Sorry, I can't see everybody. Sec here, I've got to get gallery.
I'll second it, Deb.
Okay, thank you. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the minutes? Okay, seeing none, can I have, sorry, the motion, can I have a vote on the motion, please? Sorry. Okay, motion carries. And business arising from the minutes. I think the FADS information is the only thing. We had a discussion about that the last time. And did everybody get the document that Tammy sent out yesterday and had a chance? Did you have a chance to look at it? Okay, Scott, do you have a bit of a presentation, or Tammy?
Sure, I can go if Tammy doesn't mind, I guess.
Okay.
So the FADS document basically got reviewed through our engineers. Peter at our engineer firm looked over quite a bit of it extensively. It was actually one of the first times that the document actually got utilized right from start to finish, really, in review of the small halls and stuff. In that review, which was really good, brought some light to some tweaking that may have been not seen when it first got created, because we didn't really have an opportunity to utilize the document in its fullest extent of a renovation stage. We've used it new for the library, and certainly been using it for audits and stuff like that. But using it in a renovation, we haven't really tooled it that way. So when that happened, it brought attention that there might be some tweaking that we needed to do to make it a little bit more user-friendly for Clearview, where the document originally came from Aurelia, which is a much bigger municipality. It may have been more utilized the way they wanted it that way, but it didn't really work for us in certain circumstances. So with the information that was brought forward from the small halls audit or review from the engineers, it brought light to us to change a couple areas. So Tammy and I and Peter met yesterday or the day before days all seem to run together these days. But we highlighted some key points that needed some attention, and we've got some recommendations, which I think Tammy did forward out to everybody on what we're looking at changing. It's not a whole lot. It's kind of wordy, but it is significant to what we were looking at with the halls. And some of it was very costly, especially one particular section was going to be huge cost to the halls that council would have been facing with the way it was originally worded. So we found by these changes, this should work to alleviate some stress in those areas. So I'm not sure if it's in order in the way you see it, but I'll quickly go over it. So create a new article, R16.2. Basically, in your FADS document, there's a section 16.2 in the Reno section that we're going to tweak, and that was the sill height. So in the windows situation, if an existing window is already there and we're not touching it, the old FADS document said that it had to be 760 millimeters off the floor. We're going to strike that 760 millimeter requirement. If the window is, the window is. Basically is what the new wording is saying now. So we're permitting them to remain in their existing location when they're not being touched. It just makes sense. The fact that it's not 760, it's not 760. I mean, to make the change forcible didn't make any sense when you weren't renovating that window. So certainly if somebody wanted to renovate the windows and do a renovate, then okay, maybe we should be looking at the FADS document to say you need to bring it to a certain height so everybody can utilize that window. So with this renovation section, that's the change. Just strike out the 760, easy peasy. The other one was 6.5 in the FADS document. So that was dealing with, just going to go to it, the tactile warning indicators. So those are those little bump strips that you see when you enter into a hazardous area, like a set of stairs or a parking lot or end of the sidewalk, those kinds of things. We found a discrepancy in the building code and the FADS document, and the building code actually puts a limit on it from 300 millimeters as a minimum to a maximum of 610. And the FADS document went up to 920. And the building code says you can't do that. So there was a contradictory to that. So we just went and matched the building code right directly from that section and strict anything that's going to be in the FADS document, we're going to make it match code. It just makes sense to do that. So that's a housekeeping item more than anything. The next one is a new article. A new article R96. So that's in the, whenever it has an R on it, that means it's going to the renovation section. The 9.6 in the FADS document is dealing with, I'm just going to go there. So reach requirements. So that's like reaching from a chair to the light switches and stuff like that. So in the FADS document, there was no renovation section for existing switches. So like a light switch, heating controls, stuff like that, right? If the renovation doesn't go with that and the existing is the existing, sort of like the windows, the same thinking is, we're not touching it, can stay where it is. So we're adding, where technically infeasible, existing controls and mechanisms can remain if unchanged during a basic renovation. So we're not touching it, leave it, period. If we wanted to change it, then put it down lower to the reachable limits that are comfortable for everybody. So that's basically that one. Another new section is an R20, so another renovation section 20. It does not exist. So in the section 20 that was dealing with, and I'm going to go there. So this is dealing with multi-stall washrooms or universal washrooms. And right at the beginning in there, there's a yellow block in the FADS document. And it was basically saying that every single floor had to have a multi-stall washroom and a universal washroom. on each level. So in the renovation section, there wasn't anything to deal with that. So we've changed that to include that we only need one basically on the level that the accessible level that it serves. So if this is your accessible level, then this is where that washroom will be located. If the lower floor is not accessible, then the washroom is not going to be down there. It just makes sense to just have one in a renovation situation. In a new situation, this would still apply that every level gets what is required in the FADs in new. Okay. The next one is, so this is the big one.
Scott,
Yeah, sorry.
Scott, could you provide an example of what you're talking about in R20? So can you use one of the halls as an example maybe, and then just kind of walk us through it?
I'll take the Sunnydale Hall. It's probably the simplest. So that one there was looking at doing the addition on the front with, I think, a elevated device, like a elevator to get between the floors and the main entry, which is good. And they were gonna have that addition and have the washroom and everything. They were trying to provide, I think the washroom was on, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a while since I've seen the drawing, but I think it was on the upper level.
On the main level, yeah.
Which I think is the most used part of the hall maybe. So we'd make that the accessible level, and we only had to put that universal washroom on that level. Didn't need to put another one down on the other level. So you didn't have to put in two. Yeah, it makes it tricky in the fact that if you're in a chair, you might have to go, if you're in the lower hall, you'd have to go in the elevator up and then go into the other one. This is where they don't, the FADs didn't want that happening in new construction. But in a renovation section where the halls don't have any accessibility at all, and we're trying to make it more accessible, certainly by the 2025 deadline, but also keep costs in mind by having this change for renovations, it makes sense that we have at least one level that has the accessibility requirements in its entirety, where we don't need to do it to the other. So if people are going to use the halls, for example, as knowing that we only have one floor that's fully accessible with the washroom on that level, then they should rent that portion of the hall would make sense. But they wouldn't necessarily be using both up and down at the same time necessarily. But if they did, then yes, wheelchair or whatever would have to go up and go and use that washroom. It's a little tricky, but it's there. But it just saves cost that we don't have to put it up and a down. You know what I mean?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But in new, we want everything to be accessible. So that lower level, the next level, or next, or whatever height we do, every level has it covered in new. Whereas renovation, it just didn't seem feasible to put that cost towards something that big. So this made sense that we save all of that by doing it that way.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Sorry,
Yeah.
it still sounds not in a negative way at all. I don't want to sound negative, please. It still sounds like we're creating an obstacle. That just from your example. Just from your example, like if I picture it, it just sounds like an obstacle. But again, not negative, just I'm visualizing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Terrible.
the halls right now are totally not accessible.
Okay.
So the whole point of the FADS document is to help with the accessible requirements that we're looking to hit targets on.
Okay.
We have used it fully in new, which is easy. That's been tested. But we've never had it used for renovation. And what we found in the halls is that it really hit home on the budget for these halls to hit these targets. Like it's an exuberant amount of money. And the renovation section didn't give much leniency to certain sections that had big price tags to it, which washrooms are one of them, kitchens are another, and fire safety requirements and stuff like that. So, which we're going to get into in a minute. But keeping life safety in mind, keeping accessibility in mind, trying to make a mountain out of a molehill or whatever, you know, like trying to keep it as simple as possible, keeping costs down so that at least we have something where now we have nothing. And we use the FADS document, it just blows it out of the water, which means we blow the hall right out and say, sorry, you're not going to get your hall because we can't afford it. And we nuke the hall. I mean, that's the reality that council is going to be facing with these monies. And what hall do we cut and what hall don't we cut? What amount of money goes where? That's council's decision that's coming up. And that's a huge chunk of decision that people will not be all that happy with. So trying to find a way that we can maybe save all the halls, maybe by reducing costs, and looking at the FADS document that can help kind of balance the scales to allow everybody to have some of that usage. And that's really what we're trying to find right now. Save a little bit of money, still make it accessible with what we have.
Okay,
I'm
thank
not-
you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily sure whether the FADS document is where this needs to be. But I'm wondering if there shouldn't be something that says, you know, we do renovation 1 and this gets done, but we can't lose sight of the fact that the washrooms do need to be done on the next level when that becomes
Yeah, so we discussed,
you know,
you're talking about
when the
phasing
money's
in, you're talking about phasing in. So we
Yeah.
discussed phase in, and council can certainly look at that as an option or an approach to utilize the renovations areas. I mean, certainly any new addition is considered new. But when we go in and renovate the hall, we want to make sure that the FADS document still has an acceptable scope to still hit targets of accessibility. But a phased in approach could be like maybe the existing kitchens and the existing washrooms in those areas are not touched right now, but the addition that's being added will have the new, right? And we have the one washroom up and we hit all those targets, all brand new, all good. We don't go into the hall yet. And then we can phase in the kitchen in 2026 or 27, for example, and so on and so forth as budgets would allow to rescue the older parts. But at least right now, what the FADS document's doing is saying, if you do this, you have to do it all, period.
Yeah.
And we don't want to do that. And that's what we're finding in the FADS document is that it's all or nothing. And we didn't like that approach. Council didn't like that approach, but they put it back to staff to find another way. So this is staff now trying to find another way to tweak the FADS document that council has adopted to utilize for accessibility, but it's coming off the wrong way right now. So we need to tool it back and flatten it out a little bit. Tammy's
Yes,
got-
Tammy?
Yeah, if I could just add, you know, Scott's done a great job at walking us through it. And I think he raises some really good points as far as, you know, finding that balance between realistic costs and making the facility accessible. And I think the part that I came to realize when we reviewed this for Sunnydale Hall and all of the other small halls is that, you know, this was adopted in 2016 and it is way above the standards that the province has set out. So I think that, you know, if we find a nice little balance in there between, you know, not accessible by the province and then accessible by our FADS document, and finding a nice little niche in there where we could, you know, make the halls accessible, try and keep as many halls as we can, if that's a possibility that council needs to look at, and getting the ability for folks to be able to get in the door, use the building as much as they can. And I love the phased in approach. And I think kitchens are the biggest expense when we look at renovating for accessibility. So, you know, if kitchens are kept to a later renovation, but we at least get an accessible washroom into each, get, you know, entrance into each and pathways and doorways where folks can come in and use the halls. And then we can look at making it accessible for those volunteers that help out in the halls. I think that, you know, when I think about priorities, I think that those are good priorities to have. And I think that these changes will allow us to be able to give council some options for where to best spend the tax dollars.
Okay. No. Is anybody else? Go ahead, Scott. We kind of got you sidetracked here because I think you
Not
just
really,
talked-
because it's a good discussion. I mean, everybody has to be inclusive with everything that's coming through and going through it fairly quickly, but you do have the document before you. But the last one is, or last 2 points, I think one more on the back of my sheet here. Yeah. So, I think we stroked that one. We kept it the same. Sorry, we only have one. So another new article is a renovation section for 35.5. And so section 35. So this is a very wordy code thing, if you will. So it's not easy to understand in layman's terms. It took a while to get your head around this one, but the building code doesn't say anything about what this FADS document is saying in section 35. It's not a requirement. The FADS document is going into a second higher level of protection to provide a safe second area of egress. So it's called the Areas of Refuge. So you have your primary entrance that's accessible. I'll walk you through an example. I'm going to go a little slow on this one because it is very wordy. Go in the primary entrance, and you have a primary entrance and you have a primary exit that's accessible. Just one. All that's needed, just one. The FAD says, well, if you only have one, well, your other exit that you do have, although it's not accessible, might have 5 stairs in it. Well, good luck at getting downstairs if you can't do stairs. So it says that you have to put a little area in, call it like a parking lot, if you will, or an area to stage you at, until such time somebody can get you out of there for help. So it's an area that says it's fire separated and it's smoke tight and it's protected for you to sit in there until somebody can get you out the exit in a safe little spot while the place is on fire, for example. Well, in a new situation, that's all well and good if you didn't have that second exit. But in most cases, I think what's going to happen, we discussed this, if it was a new build, they'd probably put in 2 accessible exits and entrances anyway to a building at common level, because everything's more flat these days. And if there is an elevator, then you're going to go up and so on and so forth. So Areas of Refuge deal with that. So what the renovation section is going to do is it's going to limit the size of the build. So in a renovation only. So what we did here is we put in where technically infeasible in a basic renovation, the area of refuge is not required in a building of 2 stories or less than 2 stories. I don't have the revised wording, but anyway, less than 2 stories or not more than 500 square feet. I think Tammy has the new wording on that, and I think I have the old one. But anyway, it's just playing a little bit on words there. But the
So
is that this exempts our halls.
okay. So it's
we
2
don't have
stories.
halls over 500, and we don't have halls over 2 stories.
So it's 2 stories or less is what the wording should be in this. Okay,
Exactly.
and 500 square meters is
The maximum.
unfortunately, yeah.
max
Our
size.
halls are smaller than that. Okay.
Yeah, so all our halls clear that size and they clear the 2-story. They might be multiple level, but they're not stories. So the definition of a
Okay.
story, very wordy, we don't have that. And we checked with the engineer to make sure we didn't have that. So when we looked at how we were going to word that, it was very particular. So we have multiple levels, but we only have 2-story maximums. We don't have 3, 4, 5-story buildings in Clearview type thing.
So for example, the evening hall is kind of a split entrance, but it only has 2 stories. It has a lower level and it has an upper level. But when you come in, you have to go up or down.
Right.
Right. But it's got
So-
like three or 4 levels, depending on where you're going.
Yeah. So there was a renovation section to 35.5D. And we were going to play around with that, but we decided to leave it because I think it's important that in a bigger build, so let's say we had something bigger than the halls, which is why we limited the 500 and the 2-story, which we do have 2 of them actually. I think one of them is the Creemore Hall and the Stainer Hall are bigger than the 500, but they're both flat. They're both can be made accessible fairly easily, but they also can be designed to have an area of refuge if we have to. So we didn't want to manipulate it too much that we bugger up safety, because the higher the occupant load that those buildings can handle means there's more people, which means the safety level is a little higher, where the small halls aren't as high an occupant load. And the code says you don't even require it, period. So why do we need to limit this in FADS to say, FADS is saying you must have it, period. Well, that's a little heavy handed when we got the small halls. So we had to find a way to word this to fit that bill. So this was a very big ticket item in the money end of the review that the engineers did for the small halls. This one
Well,
was hitting
because
the
it-
wall.
Yeah, it kind of almost becomes a totally separate build,
Yes,
right? Because it's at the other end of where you might be putting in your accessible part. It's at a totally opposite end.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of refuge spots just because of the county building, right? And we have them all marked. So I understand what you're saying.
I mean, it's good for a level of
and
safety.
Daryl's-
When you're dealing with low occupant load, I mean, somebody can get you out. 2 people could carry overshot, whatever. If it was bad
Yeah.
enough that the front one was gone and we had to go to the back, somebody's going to pick up somebody to help them out. Obviously, he's going to pick up the chair, each guy grab an end, whatever it's going to take to get out that door. I think that would be obviously the human thing to do, but building code doesn't say you require it. So there's no rule saying you must, other than FADS did. And because we've adopted FADS as our Bible, if you will, of accessibility, it wasn't fair in a small building. So we had to find that balance again, saying, okay, we'll do it for this, but our bigger halls, which we have 2, and obviously brand new, you put it in. So, but likely they'll have 2 exits anyway. If we had a big, massive center one day that had 2 ice rinks and a pool and blah, 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 I don't know, one day, maybe, it will hit the target. So, yeah. So that's basically it. So hopefully those changes help a little bit for that area that council's looking for a little bit. We left the kitchens untouched. We felt that if they renovate the kitchens, it should meet FADS. It should just comply. It makes sense that the halls are being utilized for the hall and the kitchen as a unit. And if you're going to get them in the hall, then they need to have the kitchen. It goes as one, together.
Yeah.
And why would you Mickey Mouse with that? It is what it is. We'll keep it the same. There's no point in changing the costs on that. Everybody wants to use it. Let everybody use it.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments or anything like that? Tammy?
Sorry. Would you guys like me to read the wording that we came up with to make sure that you're comfortable with it on the fire?
The last
Sure.
one.
Sure.
Yep,
Yeah.
sure.
So what we said was, where technically infeasible in a basic renovation, the area of refuge is not required in a building of less than 2 stories or a building of not more than 500 square meters.
But that's the same as what you have there.
That's what I sent to you, but Scott didn't have it to be able to read it. As
Okay.
yeah.
But that's
Should be.
not, less than 2 stories is not 2 stories.
Yeah, that's 2 stories or less. That's what it means. In the code, that
Yeah.
means the same thing.
That's the kind of wording that
Okay.
they use in the code, which is not real language for us.
Yeah, we had it
So-
saying 2 stories or less. Code doesn't read that way.
Yeah.
It's less than 2 stories. So 2 stories basically means less than 2. So 2 stories or less, gone. If you hit 3, well, no, stop. We need to have something in protection for that. So that's
Okay, so we're
we don't have one though.
okay, so the way I'm reading that is not required in a building of less than 2 stories.
Right.
So
Code-
it's not 2 stories or less, it's less than 2 stories.
Right. It means the same thing. So it's
Okay,
it-
not for
the
me,
same thing.
but
yeah, it does
yeah,
mean
it doesn't mean that-
yeah.
okay,
So less than
In
2
the code-
stories, basically it's not going to be anything. It means that you can't go 3. So if it's 2 stories or less, which is the way I had it written the first time, which is more layman's terms, I took it to code to say
yeah,
not more than 2 stories. So it means you can't go more than 2.
Okay.
What that means.
okay. Okay,
We're not.
so is not required in a building of not more than 2 stories as opposed to of less than 2 stories.
Okay, yeah, we could do that too. Yeah, not more than.
Okay, can you, okay, can you change it to that? Because I think it's.
Yeah. So not more than 2
That's
stories or
like-
not more than 500 square meters. Yeah. we could-
Manfred, did you have a comment?
No, can you hear me? Is my microphone on? Okay,
Yes, your microphone's on.
it is now. Okay. I'm sorry I was late. I was double booked today. So I just
Oh, okay.
Anyway, no, I think the presentation from Scott is very well done. I think he got all the bases covered. I think we're in good shape.
Okay, good. So will will these pretty much address the issues that we were having when we looked at the small halls as far as price tags go? Like as far as balancing,
I'll let
will
Tammy jump on that
these,
one.
I guess there's 4 here, right? Will that kind of balance everything out?
I think it's going to help with the
Okay.
costing. I don't, I think council may still have a decision to make about whether they're phasing in renovations. And I think, you know, when I present this to council and when, you know, on behalf of the group, you know, that's something that I'll mention in there, because I think as the way it stands currently with the full FADS document unchanged, you know, it is a lot of money. And I think that the 2 big ones that we were able to tackle here with the fire refuge, as well as having an accessible washroom on each and every floor, those are our big ticket items. The third really big ticket item is the kitchens. So I think that if there is the opportunity to save the kitchens for a future renovation, then I think that will help council to be able to make the decision to hope, you know, whether they can move forward or not with updating the small halls.
I think this is just my comment, but I think it's important that we realize that we almost have to have a big picture and whittle away at it, because part of the problem is that, you know, as councils change and hall board members change, their priorities tend to change, and that's how we sometimes lose certain things that we were going to do. You know, as soon as we got the money, we were going to do this as far as accessibility. And I think those kinds of decisions have to stay on the books and not lose sight of them, so that we are moving towards accessibility and we don't lose sight of the fact that, you know, the money we're not doing the kitchens now, but the kitchens are something that are going to have to be done whenever you do before you do the next renovation. The kitchens are going to have to be done, or within a, you know, a 5-year or a 10-year block, they need to be done. I think that's kind of what happens, you know. Like I know that there was a whole lot of work that was done at one point in time, and they kind of moved towards making things a little bit more, you know, doing what they could. The hall boards did what they could, but they kind of didn't finish the thought, you know, and there's still railings that are missing and stuff like that. And I think that we need to be aware of that whenever we're embarking on a renovation, that everything that we need to do, we're doing, right? And then we can like complete a section, like this is phase 1 and this is phase 2, this is phase 3.
I think that's a really good point. When it comes time for me to create the report for council, you know, and when we're making recommendations to council, maybe that is something. I think that if they had the blessing of the committee, the accessibility committee, to say, you know, we would be comfortable with you phasing in, and, you know, maybe we could recommend that, you know, X number of dollars be put aside each year to be able to, you know, as best we can, capture those future renovations as well. I know we already set money aside in each budget for accessibility, but it's not near the cost of the small halls renovations by any means. So maybe that could be part of our recommendation if us as a committee so wishes to make that suggestion to council. That would, I think, help in their decision making to understand that, you know, with FADS, that is our end goal, and that's where we would like to see all of our facilities, but that we would, as a committee, would be comfortable with a phased in approach, and, you know, tackling certain things. The trouble with that is sometimes if you do 3 renovations over time, you know, maybe it would have been cheaper to do it all at once. But if you don't have the money all at once, then that's kind of the price you pay for for doing it over a staged approach. But at least if council understood that as a committee, that's something you'd be comfortable with, if that is the case, then we could put that as part of our recommendations to council, and they could take that into consideration.
Okay. Deb, did you have a comment?
Just, I like the phased in approach. Right now, my priority is getting into the buildings because I can't get into them. So to me, that's one of the most important things. There are several people in my family who cannot go into these places because they are in wheelchairs and they're heavy. And a heavy person in a wheelchair is just, it's crazy. So I think just having access to us is the most important, so we can be together as a family. And the bathroom is just like an added bonus to that. And those of us who love to cook and can't get into the kitchen, we're willing to let the other people, just let them go ahead and do the cooking, and we'll get there eventually. So right now, I think the phased in approach is really great for us. That's all I wanted to say.
So thanks, Krista. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, does somebody want to, yeah, Krista, sorry. Your mic's on. Krista, your mic's on. Or off, sorry.
I totally agree with you, Deb. I think there needs to be a phased-in approach, and where there's a set dollar amount or a percentage of the accessibility funding that is put away each year, that it's delegated appropriately, and that we can still work towards getting people with accessibility needs into the kitchen and everywhere that they need to be. That's what we're doing every month when we come to these meetings. Like that's what we're supposed to be striving for, right? So I agree with you. That's all.
Yeah. And the phased in approach, I think, makes more sense to us, because if we do it all, and if we can't do it all, then we're left doing nothing. And that doesn't move us forward. Right. So I think it's important that, it's the way the community, we have to put the community halls at the forefront. That's the way they've always done stuff, right? They've done stuff as they can. But I think that the township, kind of because of building codes and everything else, and accessibility, needs to be more involved in helping to guide people, so that it's done properly and it's done to code, and everything. We're not kind of finding things afterwards that we miss doing something because somebody didn't read it in the FADS document or something like that, right? So can somebody make a motion? I guess that we accept the report brought forward by staff, and we'd like to propose to council that they accept these recommendations. And
Yeah, I'll
okay,
make the motion.
Manfred.
Yeah.
Okay. These recommendations, and then can I have a seconder? Krista?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. So Manfred motioned and Krista second. Is there any other discussion about the document?
No.
Okay. I think as an aside, we should also make a recommendation that council look at a phased-in approach with any renovations that they do on our older buildings. However, I think there needs to be some sort of there needs to be a long-term goal, I think, and then so that they're not losing sight of like full accessibility. And I'm not sure how to word that. Kayla, can you help us?
So it sounds like you are recommending the council consider a phased-in approach in future renovations. to come up to complete
Yeah, but I think,
compliance. Is that?
yeah, I think we just have to, I'd like to see, personally, I don't know how everybody else feels, but I think that we need to have like a long-term goal, like they need to have a long-term end game, and then how they're going to phase it in. Right. And I know it all depends on money, but like we can't lose sight of the fact that the kitchens need to be done, and that we're bringing it forward. Yes, we're going to make these accessible for people to come in, but we need to do the kitchens next, sort of thing.
The other option too is that with the savings that we've made in the recommendations of the refuge and the washroom bit, I think that might have been in the report of the funds. So with that being redacted now, quite possibly, I don't know if the funds for the kitchen were still in there.
Oh, could go into the kitchens?
It may have already been in there. I don't know I can't remember what was in that document originally, that the renovations to all the halls. Like I think he had the kitchen, I think he had all the addition money and all that stuff in there. And I think he had the area of refuge and the washroom on every level. And he had a cost for that as well. I think he had another one that was a little bit side different to that, which I can't quite recall. So now that we've pulled a couple things out, it may have made it more cost effective to include the kitchen. And maybe some halls aren't as expensive fixes and they can go ahead and do the kitchens right out of the gate. But that's something council can probably decide. But I think you might want to leave it more open to council's decision, that you're just open to the fact that if a phased in approach was to take forward, that you guys are giving to that notion that yes, we would accept a phased in approach, I think is what you just have to do. I don't think you need to drill down as to which one where and that kind of thing. And like that, I think you just need to stay open that the accessibility committee is open as a whole to a phased in approach to the older sections being upgraded as needed to meet better accessibility in the future. And that'd be the kitchen or whatever, if that has to be redacted, because some halls may need a better addition or elevating device that is more special, which means more cost. So we pull a kitchen out of that one and put it into that lift device, for example, you know what I mean? Whereas this hall over here, wow, we can go ahead with the kitchen because it's pretty much accessible. It's not as big of a deal and it's not going to cost as much. So we might as well do the kitchen now. And maybe that money is there. You know what I mean? So yeah, maybe some halls might get a little more tweaking and some not as much, but it's up to council on how to spread the love.
Spend the money. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay.
So I do have a makeshift motion if you want to see how this fits your idea. Recommend council consider a phased-in approach when considering the long-term plans regarding small halls renovations becoming AODA compliant.
Okay.
Is that satisfactory, or did you want to tweak it?
Is everybody good with that?
I like it.
Can I have a mover? Deb? And Krista's going to second it.
I'm moving it.
Okay. Is there any more discussion about the motion?
It's good.
Okay. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay. So close that.
So sorry, Deb, just for clarification, when you approved or when you accepted the report, are you you're also approving the proposed changes as provided?
I think so. That we're
With
moving
that little
right?
tweak to the last one?
Yeah, the last one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, then we recommend it be sent to council.
Yeah.
Right. Move forward to council for their acceptance. Okay, and okay, do we have any communications, Chris, Kayla?
No, I haven't received anything. Just that we still had to pay for the independent learning living services fee for the webinar. I think it was only $5, so I don't know.
Okay.
wanna
Do you
go
need a
ahead and
motion to have that paid?
direct? Yes, please.
Okay. Can somebody make a motion to have the webinar, what was it? It was the annual meeting, right? For
Yeah, so
Do you
just
want me
a
to pay
motion.
for it? Because I'm the one who missed it.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'll donate $5 to the fund.
Okay, so can somebody make a motion to pay it?
Make that motion.
Councilor Broderick and a seconder? Deb?
Do it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Perfect.
Okay, motion carries. Someday we'll be able to meet in person again. It'll be so nice.
I know, I agree.
Okay, so there's no new business or site plans or anything? Oops. Okay, there we go. Nope, okay. And anything around town? Anybody wants to bring forward?
I
Deb?
just have a comment. You know the new crosswalk lights at the Tim Hortons corner?
Okay,
You know, it talks now.
Yeah.
That okay.
oh,
On
okay.
the-
Mhm.
Okay, on the corner that has the that the house was torn down in.
Right,
Okay. On my scooter, I cannot get close enough to that button to push it with my hand. I have to use my cane
oh,
and tap it with my cane. I'm not sure if anyone in a wheelchair will have that same problem or not. I know there's nothing that you can do about it because of the way the ground is around the pole. That's what the issue is. And I know nothing
So is-
can be fixed, but I just wanted to point that out.
okay, so is that the one that's on the other side of Airport Road? Then across from Tim Hortons? Is that where that
Yeah, the
button
one right
is?
across from Tim Hortons. Yeah.
Well,
The others
Okay.
are okay.
Okay,
But I
yes,
just
Tammy.
find it difficult. You just can't get close enough to it to push it
Okay.
with your hand. So you have to use something else. So I just,
Okay.
yeah, there's probably
Okay.
nothing that can be done, but it's just because
Okay.
of the way it's
Well, we
sitting.
kind of need to be aware of that though.
Yeah.
Tammy?
Sorry, so my question, Deb, is that because the sidewalk isn't close enough, or like is the pole too far into the grass section, or?
The pole is like, say here, and then the grass section goes like up like this, and you
Okay.
can't get in close to the pole.
Okay.
Whereas the other ones are fine. They're all cemented around and you can get to the other ones easy. But this one just seems to be, maybe the pole's back farther. I don't know.
Okay.
So I just used the tip. I just used the tip of my cane. Unfortunately, in the last 3 months, I've not been allowed to get off my scooter to get off and hit it with my hand. So I'm just wondering if people who are in wheelchairs are having the same problem. I don't know.
Or a more difficult time because they might not have a cane with them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
I
just
can
a
reach
point
out-
of note.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
can reach out-
Manfred?
Oh, sorry.
I have a question to Debbie. So from that point, if you're going with your wheelchair on that particular point, and you want to go to the State Medical Center, how do you find that sidewalk going on the west side of King Street, going towards the medical center? The last time I looked at it, it almost takes an all-terrain vehicle in order to manage that. So have you had a problem with that sidewalk?
The sidewalk is fine. It's usually overgrown, so there's trees, like not trees, but bushes hitting you as you go through.
Yes.
The only problem I have is getting, when you go down to Reinhardt's,
Yes.
where the parking is for people who go to visit, their cars stick out across the sidewalk and you have to go onto the highway to get around them to go to the other side of the sidewalk. That's the only.
I
Yes,
have,
I have.
I have breakfast there at Friday morning at Charlie's Restaurant.
Right.
And I've been watching you people balancing that sidewalk along. This sidewalk should not even be allowed to be called a sidewalk. I think it is a disgrace for that. And the condition of that sidewalk, and it's a balance past Charlie's place, and then from then on you go past there and the Yard Boys. You cross a bit of a creek there, and you have to step down and step back up again. It is a disaster.
Manford, I go to Charlie's Diner every week and I walk that walk from my house to walk to Charlie's Diner every single week. And I will tell you, I have 2 legs and a perfectly good heartbeat, and you need an all-terrain vehicle.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We should do.
Horrible.
There are spots on the sidewalk where you have to do one of these. It's like a slalom
Yes.
course.
Yes,
Because
yes.
there's holes here, and then there's a hole there, and there's a hole there. But it's still doable.
Yeah,
Sorry, if you got to get somewhere, you get there, you know?
but we've been pointing that out. This problem, that is not a new problem. That is a problem which has been ongoing for at least 5-6 years, and there was always an excuse, and it was going to be looked after whenever this happened and that happened. Well, boy, here.
Okay, well, the part in front of Charlie's is fine now, right?
It's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where new development is.
Yes.
I think,
But the medical center is further on north, Debbie.
yeah, so between, is it North Street and Yard Boys?
Yes.
Right? I think there's kind of a residual there that there has been no improvement since they initially put the sidewalks in,
Yes.
right? And then
And
what about south of that, south of Charlie's? So
Oh.
between Charlie's and the lights.
the real estate? Well, it's that's why I asked Debbie.
Yeah,
Debbie
there
the
is
one
a
that-
sidewalk there, but it's usually, the grass is usually overgrown. And if you go past, you just kind of get hit with the grass.
Okay.
But that's
Okay.
not an issue.
So,
I
Tammy,
think-
those sidewalks are probably part of there's a whole sidewalk study, right? Where are they in the, I guess the question is where are they in the list? Because they do create, and Manfred's brought this up before, right? There's an issue there, and there was a considerable issue whenever they were building. So that right in front of the new plaza has pretty much been resolved. But now what about either side of it?
So what I can do is I can, review the study and speak with the Deputy Director of Public Works who's been working on that, and find out what part of the plan it's in, and let them know that it is a concern for the Accessibility Committee, and see what we can do to
I think
assist.
okay. As far as the crosswalk, Tammy, can you bring that up to the Deputy Director as well? Okay, and so then there may be something, it sounds like maybe somebody just kind of wasn't thinking about it whenever they were installing that, and maybe something can be done there, because if it's not, they took down the house and everything else, it could be that somebody just didn't think about having to push the button and being in a wheelchair. Okay.
Yeah.
Because everybody has to push the button, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up. You can bring that back to the next meeting, Tammy. Okay. Okay. So our next meeting we have for December 8th. I think we'll tentatively schedule it, and we'll see what's kind of on the agenda at that point. We may wait until the new year if we don't have anything, because I know council meets, I think, for the last time around, is it that week or the next week? I think. Yeah, so they meet on the 5th. Oh, 14th. Okay. Yeah, so they meet on the 14th. So that'll be the last week, unless we want to bring. Now, are you bringing this report to council at that point?
I think if the committee's comfortable with the recommendations, I can bring them forward. What's the date today? The 10th, the 23rd. We've missed the opportunity to submit a report for the 23rd meeting, but I can get it in for December 14th meeting.
Okay, so we probably need to meet on the 8th then, because we'll have to at least approve the minutes so that you can bring it forward, right? Is that right, Kayla? Yeah. Okay, so we'll have to approve the minutes so that you can bring it forward, but we can have everything in place, I think, before then, and we'll make those changes because you'll have to make the changes to the report. Okay, so we will meet on the 8th, and maybe we can follow up on those couple things that Deb and Manfred brought up, and we can and we'll talk about bringing the report forward to council. Okay. Does anybody else have anything else? Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Okay.
Kayla or Krista? Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I
And-
lost you guys there for a while. My
That's okay.
my Wi-Fi crashed, and I'm plugged into an Ethernet cable now. I said, that's it. I went and had to unplug my other home computer and switch it up. So I'm back.
Oh, we thought you just got mad and took your stuff and went home.
My Wi-Fi crashed. And I was
That's okay.
like, but all my other devices, like my phone and everything was fine. I was like, what's going on? I lost it on the computer. So I said, that's it.
Okay.
So I grabbed I'm corded now. I'm not Wi-Fi. So I said, that's it.
Okay. Okay.
The die
Can
is
we have a
hurry.
seconder for the motion? Okay, so Krista made a motion to adjourn. Councillor Broderick. Okay, have a great day, everyone.
Oh.
And we'll see you on the 8th of December. Okay, have a
May
good
I
one.
say goodbye?